Good evening and welcome to the beautiful Cohasset Inn. And thank you for watching the Rhode Island Wave Spotlight Series. Tonight we're really fortunate to have a very special guest with us. And I happen to have his newest business card, which says he's Rhode Island Wave Spotlight host. So he's the newest team member of the Rhode Island Wave, Mr. Scott Nerney. Scott, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Well, we've got a lot of questions for you. I hope you got the answers.
I will try, or I'll make them up and try not to look like it.
Excellent. I'd like to start off by asking you maybe a little bit about your background, not recent background, maybe background from years ago, where you were brought up,
Sure.
city or town you lived in. Did you always live in Rhode Island, or did you come from another state? That type of thing. And what kind of childhood you had.
Yeah. I was raised in Rhode Island in Warwick, grew up in Warwick, moved to Warwick when I was about 6 months old from East Providence. Don't remember that at all.
That's understandable.
Sure. It was a funny story. My parents were originally living in East Providence where my dad was working. His company moved across the bridge, the dreaded East Providence to Warwick commute, and they moved back on this side of the bridge. And a couple of years later, the company moved back over to East Providence. And he worked there for 30 years. I ended up working there for 10 years at a forklift company in East Providence called M&G Materials. Mm-hmm. But prior to that, I went to high school at many schools that are changed or closed. I went to Randall Holden, which is closed. I went to Gorton, which closed, nothing to do with me. And I went to Warwick Vets, which became a middle school with all the changes in the Warwick school system. I left for college and went to some college out in Ohio where if people are listening and hearing an accent, that's a little bit of the R's coming out that you don't normally hear. And I came back in 1989 to find my lovely wife and got married in 91 and worked 10 years at the forklift company. And after that, I worked 23 years at MetLife.
It's a long time.
Yeah, I recently retired last year and living the different life now, and I love it.
Oh, it is. I spent 23 years at Citizens, and I've been retired now 7 years, and I love it.
Yeah, it opens you up to doing so many great
things.
Yeah.
Because now you have the time.
You do. I mean, you can fill that time up. As many people say, oh, you'll have so much free time. And I look at my calendar and I think, yeah, I can fit you in a couple of weeks. And that's the great thing. If I'm busy, I know I'm doing a lot of great things for people.
Exactly. I tend to do the same thing. A lot of times when we go to bed, I'll say to my wife, check the calendar for tomorrow. What do we got going on? Then she'll pull the things up. We have a meeting or we have whatever. But it keeps you busy, and it's good for you.
It does.
It really
my wife
is.
And I, once every couple of weeks, will sit there and, before it used to be the calendar on the wall, but now we're both putting on our iPhone saying, all right, what do you have next week? What's next Tuesday? But we sync up, and, we both live our lives together and separately for what we want to do, and
That's good.
It's fantastic.
We do the same, only my wife is old school. She doesn't like to put anything on her cell phone. She pulls out her book.
Oh, no.
Let's sync the book with my phone.
Yeah.
And that's how we do that. Growing up, did you have any special projects that you like to do, or did you have any sports you like to participate in, or anything at all like that?
Yeah, growing up, I was an only child, which was kind of shock and awe compared to the next-door neighbors who had 5 kids. So it was good. We used to fish a lot. My dad had a boat. We go out into Narragansett Bay on the weekends or sometimes at night and fish. Played Little League Baseball and trivia out there. I played baseball with 2 famous people. One is Tony Petrarca, who was the fastest second baseman I've ever met.
Yep.
And the other was outfielder Jim Langevin.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Amazing.
Kept in touch here and there when we can, and not as important and famous as they are, but once in a while we'll drop a note to each other.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Could you kind of maybe go over what brought you to what you're doing? Like, how did that pop in your head one day? You said, gee, I'd like to progress in a certain way and end up doing what you're doing today.
Yeah, so when I retired, I wanted ways to give back to the community. Mm-hmm. And I started to really pay attention not from the political side, because as soon as you start talking politics, you're always divisive.
That's
I
right.
wanted to look at, let's bring people together. So I started talking to some local businesses and nonprofits and said, I have a lot of experience, and I understand that data science in a major Fortune 50 company may not apply to a small guy who's trying to pay bills.
Mm-hmm.
But the methodology, the thinking about how you put things together, I found as I talked to more people, it really did try to help them and the nonprofits. So I did an initiative with a local Warwick animal shelter to get them new signs for their shelter. And it was a challenge that they gave me, and I said, I'd love to try that. How hard can it be? And there was not a lot of red tape. It was just someone to push from outside the organization. And the mayor's office, I've built a great relationship with them, Mayor Picozzi, and we can get things done. The council people have been fantastic
That's great.
that I've had to work with, and my councilman Jeremy Ricks and the council president. And from that, I started doing a podcast with the city of Warwick at the Warwick Public Library.
Nice.
And I try to bring on nonprofits, small businesses, individuals to really talk to them and hear what brings them to Warwick, what brings people to their business, and why would people want to come from outside the city to Warwick, and talk to them and meet with them, do business with them.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had some of the nonprofits on with the animal shelters. We've had a gentleman, in fact, just recently released a couple of episodes about Rocky Point. He's a theme park enthusiast on one of our highest rated shows.
Yep.
Because people like to think about the past in those great memories.
Oh, yeah.
And we've done some with local businesses. We had the GAM Theater on to talk about their schedule and what they're going to do. We're going to have them back. Mm-hmm. So it really helps to remind people what's so great about our city and the local communities, because even though it may focus on Warwick, it really hits a lot of areas around the state. And I thought, jumping in here to the Rhode Island Wave, one thing that terrifies people when I do a podcast is they always ask, it's not video, is it? It's just the next step. We're having a conversation.
Exactly.
And on the podcast, I always say to them, and we're in a recording studio, so it's just me, them, and my fantastic editor, who's behind the boards, Will. And I said, well, tell the audience, and I see them kind of shudder for a second, because it is a glass-lined room, but there is no audience there. But there is on tape. It's the same thing as you and I talking. There could be millions of people watching this over the next millennium, but we're just having a conversation.
Exactly.
And I think bringing the skill sets that I do to ask the questions that someone watching this video would want to ask is really what drives me. It makes it exciting.
It does. And over a period of time, I've found that certain questions people are interested in. Your person's background, where they went to school, that type of thing. And people like to hear that. And keeping it not a political conversation is a good thing. Because I've come to the conclusion, no matter what you talk about in politics, 50% of the people will like what you say, and 50% will hate what you say. So it's not worth it.
No, not at all. And people were amazed. My first interview on the podcast was with the Warwick City Council president, and we didn't talk politics. And I sat down and I said, and I'll say the same thing to every guest I have on the Rhode Island Wave Spotlight, there's no gotcha questions. If there's a gotcha question, I'm in the wrong business.
Right.
I'm not on 60 Minutes. I'm not on Dateline.
Right.
There's no one scary walking through the curtain to accuse them of something.
Exactly.
I just really want to be real to people. And, when you ask the background of, where did you come from? To hear someone grew up in Rhode Island, they're, a native Rhode Islander, they spent a little time away and they've come back to kind of really showcase Rhode Island. To me, it shows the credibility of where this organization wants to go.
Right.
And keep it local. And, not to say that if someone moves their business in here and wants to come talk to us, fantastic. You've taken a stock in our state. We want to talk to you about that.
Right.
What brought you in? What keeps you here? If a company's looking to hire people or expand or, new products or a nonprofit, whatever it is, people want to know. And I think that's key.
Of course. And it's a good thing.
Absolutely.
And I think you and I think a lot alike, because when I retired, I thought about what can I do to help somebody, and that's a good thing. Everybody should think like that, you know. And I love the state just like you do. It's kind of crazy because I found Elon Musk's email address, and I emailed him when I heard he was leaving California, and I sent him all kinds of information on Quonset. Needless to say, he moved to Texas, but I say, what the heck? Worst thing that can happen
Sure.
is he ignores me.
Why would he want to come here? Electric is expensive. He'd rather go to Texas where they have blackouts all the time. I'm not sure how you make an electric car in Texas with no electricity, but
I don't know.
I say go for it.
Absolutely.
He
Absolutely.
could come here.
Absolutely. I didn't think it would happen, but I said, oh, maybe he'll come and just look at it and buy me lunch.
Yes, absolutely.
So it was interesting to send it out. When you were in college, did you have the same major, or did you change majors a couple of times, or?
I went for, and it's funny because I'm going to date myself, because people should know, worked for 33 years, add the math, mid-50s. I started in computer science, and at the time they were saying, oh, we want programmers. So I started programming skills. I learned languages that, for the most part, most of them aren't around anymore. That's how long ago it was. And a few months in, they said, oh, we don't really need any more programmers because computers are the size of a garage back then, and we need systems managers. So they changed the curriculum. It was a private tech school, and we started down that path. And at 8 months, they said, oh, we don't need that anymore. We need managers of those systems people. And at that point, my major had changed 3 times by force, and I lost a lot of credits towards the final degree because they could do that as a private institution. So I left there, and I ended up finishing at age 40 at University of Phoenix for business management. And I think going back to school much later, you respect the dollars because they're yours. You're going to work. You're had a fantastic tuition reimbursement as long as you got good grades. Some of the bills you still had to pay yourself, but you're working for the grades and getting paid back, but also understanding that the classes you're taking, you really do apply. As opposed to when you're 18 thinking, when am I ever going to use this class? Not that I would say I ever use algebra very often, but you never know what kind of class you're going to take. Ethics, business management, negotiations.
Exactly.
Those are all things I used every day at work. And I think, it got me to where I ended up at MetLife because, at some point it matters to have a little degree.
It does.
The experience is, I would take experience over someone to say they have 4, 6, or 8 year degree, but you need a mix at some point.
You do. So. And when I was getting ready for college, I never looked forward to college. In fact, I quit twice, changed my major twice, and eventually I did finish. But I enjoyed high school, but not college. It was like a job to me. But other than that, like when you have, say, free time for yourself, and your wife has some free time, do you do any traveling, or do you have a specific place that you really enjoy going to, whether it's Narragansett Beach or wherever, Newport?
Not to shun Rhode Island, but we go to Mexico every year in September.
Really?
I think we missed one because of the pandemic, but we go to Mexico for our anniversary in September.
Excellent.
And we have a place we typically go to because it's small. They have some shows. They do. It's a nice pool area. It's all inclusive, so I don't have to plan anything. I don't have to worry about spending more money while I'm there. And I really enjoy that. And it's not too bad of a flight. So we do that in September, and then I do a separate trip out to Pennsylvania to a ski lodge in the summer. Actually, the end of July, which there is no snow there at that point. But I go to the World Board Gaming Convention for the World Board Gaming Championships.
Before we get into the board game,
scary, huh?
It is scary. What incentivized you to go to Mexico initially?
Price.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you're spending, besides the flight, which when you're flying someplace that everyone else goes, the rates are pretty decent. So you figure if flying to Mexico was the same as flying out to someplace in the U.S., all things being equal, then if I'm going to go to a hotel in America and say it's $250, $350 a day, and I'm going to buy all my food without a vehicle to drive, you're paying $400, $500, $600 a day, and all the other expenses. Where if I go to Mexico and it was $200 or $300 a day for the hotel and all the food, my entertainment's done, my chauffeur back to the hotel, and anything else I want to do is done. Now I looked at it as pay about the same up front, and everything's taken care of.
Exactly.
We're not ones to say, oh, let's go to XYZ and we'll go find stuff to do.
Gotcha.
And I think it works out for us well. We've done the Dominican, we've done Jamaica, and it's warm. My wife loves, her favorite vacation is chill by the pool, have a nice blue drink with some kind of fancy drink, and we'll find some things to do. Yeah, we usually do a ceramic while we're away, and bring it home to add to our collection.
That's nice.
Yeah.
We almost got to Mexico. We were invited to a wedding in Cancun.
Oh, nice. That's
and
where we
then
go.
it was right the middle of the pandemic. So we made the decision not to go, but then the people that were getting married canceled it until another year. It was still questionable on the COVID, but they went ahead and had it. They had a lot of people that didn't go.
Yeah.
But they didn't care. They said, we get back home, we'll have a little party.
Yeah.
Do it that way.
Yeah, I would encourage you to go. I mean, the people are great, the food is good, and you do the all-inclusive. The resorts are safe; they're behind walls. The water's safe. It's it's a nice getaway.
That's nice.
Yeah,
that's nice. So, getting back to the thing you mentioned, which I was going to ask you about, the board games. I'm not all that familiar. I play 2 board games: chess and backgammon.
Yep.
That's about it.
Okay.
So I'm sure everybody would love to hear about your board gaming experience.
Yeah, so there's, and I'll try to quantify this as best I can, about 1,500 to 2,000 people all show up at a ski resort, and we play board games. Now, there's about 130 different games there. I personally don't play all of them. I maybe play 10 to 20% of them. They range from card-type games, sports recreation games, which I really enjoy, war recreation, what they call a European style, or kind of managing assets and production type things. There's diplomatic negotiation type games. There's really a big gambit. And at the end of the year, they look at how many people attended each game, and the top 100 hours spent at the tables get in for next year.
Okay.
And then they do a vote where anybody can suggest another game to come in, and those top 25 get in. And that's kind of how they make about 125 to 130. So it always changes a little bit. My favorite games are sports recreation games. A few years ago, I was playing a game called March Madness, where you're using cards and dice to simulate playing the March Madness tournament. And everybody knew us from Rhode Island. There's a few of us that go. And Providence Friars were, back with the Marvin Barnes type ages. They were up for, you could pick that team if you wanted. And I said, well, I'll take them. And they weren't great. They were okay compared to, when you're playing teams from all time. So, here comes North Carolina, and here comes UCLA, and, Ohio State, who I'm a huge fan of. And there's all these great teams, and it's really strategy and, being in the right spot at the right time, little dice rolling. And I played a lot of the run and gun, which I think Providence was playing, in recent years. That style back then. And I did well, and I won the world championship.
Wow,
so,
that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a title you keep for a year. You get a plaque, and I've done well in some other games.
You get the plaque, but it's $1 million they give you, correct?
Yeah, I didn't tell the IRS about that.
That's interesting.
You got another one.
Yeah.
I do. Actually, I do play another board game, Monopoly.
Oh, yeah,
I don't know if that's involved.
It's not. It had been in the past. The problem with Monopoly is it is such a long game.
It is.
Someone had tried to bring it in the past couple of years, and we may get it back. Who knows? Just most of the games go with a set 2-hour, 3-hour time limit.
Chess isn't involved.
It hasn't been, but it could be.
Okay.
But a lot of them are 3, 4, 5 player games.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you. At what point in your life did you say, boy, I like these games so much, I keep pushing and pushing, and I find out about a tournament, I'm going to the tournament. And what pushed you to do that?
My friend Rob, he's
Okay.
been involved in them for many years. He's probably one of the best board gamers I know. He can absorb any game and understand it and figure out a strategy. I will bow down. He's far superior than me. He plays a ton, and one year had a local Friday night gaming group, and we got together, and he said, well, there's this big week-long convention that you guys should go to. At the time, it was down in Maryland, and I said, wow, I don't know, a whole week of board games, sounds kind of crazy. It seems kind of scary. And we said, all right, well, we'll give it a try. So a bunch of us went down one year and played, and it was really fun. You're hanging out at the hotel, a bunch of you hanging out, and you're 9 o'clock in the morning, the games start, and they will go till midnight if you want to.
Yep.
But my friend and I have one rule when we go: it's not work.
Exactly.
We're away for a week, and we're relaxing,
Just having a good time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now that I don't have a full-time job anymore, I still keep the same motto: it's not work.
Yep.
He is still working right now, but if you get away and you do something you love, what more can you ask for?
Exactly. I do the same thing with my friends, especially when they say they got to go to work. I go, where? They go, work. I said, what's that?
Yeah.
And then they laugh, But,
Yeah.
Do you, in looking at the games and whatnot, did you ever think you'd be world champion?
No, the first year I went, I came in third.
Yep.
And it was a car racing card game, strategy game. And I got third place. You get a plaque, a different kind of plaque, because they're all different based upon where they go. And I said to my friend, I said, well, that was easy, first year, and I already got a plaque. He said, let's see you do it again next year.
Yeah.
It's some of the folks that go there are just passive, we'll have fun. Other folks are hardcore.
Yeah.
You get to know who's who.
Yep.
But no, I never thought I'd, eventually maybe, but I just go to have fun.
That's good.
It's not like, grit and teeth, and if I don't get this, and I just go to have fun, and it's strange. We'll go at the end of July, and I'll see people now that I haven't seen for 3 years, but normally I would see people for a year, and it's just like it's been a couple months.
Yep.
You build up a great camaraderie with a lot of people, and it's seeing old friends that maybe you drop a note or two during the year, but it's just a real blast.
What you said is probably why you won the championship. If you said, I go to have fun, you're not going to destroy everybody.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's times where we'll just, sit up on, there's one of the rooms, it's a ballroom.
Yeah.
And they have a stage up in front. Most of the people are playing down on the tables. And there's one game we play, a late night game at 11 o'clock. It's golf. You're rolling 2 6-sided dice. You're looking at a chart. There's absolutely zero skill to it. It's just roll some dice, look at a chart. It's all luck.
Yeah.
And we will take a table, we'll put it up on the ballroom stage, and we'll sit there. And people come up like, I didn't know you could sit up here. You can. We can. Because that's just what we do.
Yeah.
And, people respect that. And you're like, oh, those crazy guys are up there again. And we'll hoot and hollering and yelling at each other for fun. And
that's incredible.
And it's a great getaway.
It is. It sounds like it. It really does. But so far, none of my games are in it. So.
No, you probably have to study up to go.
I guess so. I got a sort of an off-the-wall question for you, which I like to ask some people. In all your history that you know, if you could pick 3 people to sit down and have dinner with, who would you pick?
Wow. I probably think my grandfather.
Okay.
He's a funny guy. We still say comments that he's left us with, and still use some of the things that he says.
Yep.
I think just for the sake of long ago, Buffalo Bob.
Okay.
I met him once.
I remember him.
When I was a kid, we used to go up to Maine, and we're on a huge lake called Big Lake,
Okay.
right on the border of Canada. And I used to think this guy that lived in the corner was the richest man in the world. Now I'm like 10. He's the richest man in the world. Why, son? Why do you think that? My dad asked. I said, because he's got a thing where he drives his boat up onto, and it goes all the way up to the garage, and it puts his boat in the garage where his car belongs. That's the richest man in the world. Well, one day we're motoring by there to go fishing, and he's out on this deck, and my dad drives over and says hi to him. And I'm just in awe because he's the richest man in the world. My dad knows who he is, and we get out of the boat, we're chatting, and then I realized who he was because I didn't recognize him. He's not on his TV gear.
Yeah.
He invites us in the house, and Howdy Doody comes out, and he does a little
God.
show, and I was just mesmerized. I couldn't tell you to this day what happened, but I remember it happening, and my parents talk about that. I don't think I ever thanked him, as a little kid. But I think that would be fun to kind of go back to that day with him as that age.
Yep.
And a third person, jeez.
I think you just said his name.
Howdy Doody. Yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, it's a tough question.
I apologize. I wouldn't have asked it if it was going to be a tough question.
It's not a softball, right?
No, it isn't. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it can be a tough one. There's so many people run through. You're sitting there and they're running through your mind, and a lot of them go by you. Like grandfather was the first one. That obviously would be one. And then even somebody like the second one you picked. I remember him as a child.
Yeah.
And,
I recently saw. It's funny you asked that because I recently saw a clip of, way back. It's all grainy now, but a clip of back then. Old TV shows.
Yep.
It kind of reminded me, like you think, as you're approaching your immortality versus mortality, and think, wow, what? Not writes what I like to write, but what would I like to go back and just have 2 minutes of time?
Yeah.
And I thought, man, he probably did that show. He was on vacation, thought it was the greatest thing going, and make a kid smile.
Yep.
Though I'd like to thank that guy someday.
Yeah. That's very interesting. Hey, do you have anything you'd like to mention or talk about that I haven't asked you about? It doesn't mean you can't talk about it because I'm getting older. I forget a lot of the questions. That's why I have notes in front of me. So in case I forget.
I think I covered a lot. The only other thing I would probably throw out there, a little trivia, is I'm involved in racehorses.
Okay.
So I own some shares. I have a share in Authentic, who won the Breeders' Crown in Kentucky Derby last year.
Wow.
And not that I'm a huge owner of it, but I have a small share. And I have some shares in harness racing. I follow harness racing, which I learned when I was in Ohio. Used to go to the barn with my old roommate and take care of the horses. I knew they were race horses, but it was just a small little fair track. And my roommate said, well, you need to learn how to take care of a horse if you're going to be here to help out. And I did, and I ended up working at a horse farm after that with those skills after college, but still in Ohio. And I think my greatest feat there was I helped a mare foal a baby. She was having trouble, called the vet immediately. Back then there weren't cell phones. I called him at his house. It was a rough night. It took him a while to get in, so I had to deliver the baby. I had the baby as a 1-year-old when he came back into the barn to get trained. And I watched it race in Cleveland or Northfield. Up near Toledo. Watched it race up there one time. My roommate and I drove all the way up there. It was pouring down rain, and there was new owners by then, obviously. And I said, that horse hates running in the rain, hates exercising in the rain, it just doesn't like it. The owner's like, oh, no, we should be fine. Hit the first corner, threw her head back in disgust, broke the pole that she was keeping her head straight, and barely finished the race. And he looked at me and goes, you know your horse better than we know our horse. And I said, yeah, she hates the rain. I felt so bad. My roommate and I drove 2 hours to get up there and then come back.
That's a shame.
But yeah, and I saw her at a fair track a couple months later, and as soon as I walked over, the nicker in, and horses don't forget.
No, they don't.
So, but to see from, I brought this baby into life, this baby horse, to, watching her race and, and doing decently. It really got me a spirit for the sport. So it's something I do on the side.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, this has been a very interesting and enjoyable discussion that we've had. And I'd like to welcome you to the Wave.
Thank you.
I think you're a great addition. I think you're going to do a great job. And we'll see what happens.
Thanks. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're
Appreciate it.
welcome.